Okay, welcome to the Green Team Legendarium podcast episode called Green Team Publishing Episode. I'm your host, Yettibeats, and with me today I have Befuddled Panda, Little Red Book,
Hello.
and Drew from the Inking Out Loud podcast.
How's it going?
So
Nice.
for this episode, we thought we'd have a little bit of fun where we kind of created prompts on creating our own. Think of like creating our own publishing house, or maybe being our own agent, and picking authors, cover artists, scenarios. It'll be fun. But first, I kind of wanted to talk about and get your guys' thoughts on just the genre fiction, sci-fi, fantasy publishing world now, and how you feel about it in 2021. What it could do better, if it can do better, the authors being published, the stories being published. And I'll throw it to Befuddled if you want to start.
I'm not very qualified to speak on this topic, so everything I say is just my
Actually, Drew
own
is.
observation. Drew is probably the
Drew's
most
the only one.
qualified out of all of us. But what I am really excited about is like there has been more diversity in the sci-fi fantasy works that are getting published, and it's not just like the ethnicity or like gender, but it's more like the types of stories that are getting published. And there's stigma around SFF, and it's seen by a lot of people as a lesser work of literature, or maybe not even considered, literature with a capital L. But I think we've seen like really well done works that they just transcend the genres, and people want them, people love them. So I'm excited about the future of it. I do hope that traditional publishing becomes more diverse. We are seeing a lot of diversity in self-pub, but I hope traditional publishing gets even more diverse. That's me.
What about you, Drew?
Yeah, I think Panda's right. The diversity in story has really come a long way in the last like 15, 20 years. It used to be that the fantasy subgenre especially was pretty much dominated with Tolkien-esque heroic fantasy, and starting in the mid to late 90s and then really proliferating in the mid 2000s, we got different kinds of stories, not just getting published, but getting weight behind them by the publishing houses. Although I think my biggest criticism right now with the publishing industry is how little marketing support authors are getting. Unless you're already a big name author, or unless you get wildly lucky and get signed to some 7-figure deal, nowadays publishing houses are really counting on authors to do their own marketing. It's kind of expected that you have your own website and you have a newsletter and you're active on social media and you're pushing your own book. And that makes it really difficult, especially because authors by and large don't get paid that much unless you're Brandon Sanderson or George R.R. Martin or an author like that. Most genre authors especially are working a day job in addition to writing, and writing a book is hard. And when you already have such a time demand, and then you're expected to go out and market your own book, it makes it really, really tough for a lot of these mid-list authors to ever break out, because they're basically being counted on to perform 3 jobs in one and not getting paid like it.
Right. That's funny you brought that up, because just today I saw on Twitter Jonathan French, who writes the Gray Bastard books. He just posted on Twitter. He just said, "I can't wait for the 3rd book to come out so I can finally get the H off Twitter." And it's like, it's true. Like,
Yeah.
just like what you said to market, they have to market their own stuff. And also, I know some parts of Twitter is fine, but it's a pretty toxic place. So you have to be on this toxic place to sell your book. And, who knows what they, all the time. I couldn't imagine. I go on Twitter occasionally and I feel like, all right, I gotta, I'm good. So, I mean, that is a good
not talk
good
about
point.
Twitter because
What about you, Red?
So playing off of what Drew said, I actually worked for a publishing house for a semester because I took it was a master's degree that I didn't finish, but it was about publishing. And Ooligan Press is the name of and it's out of Portland State University. It's the degree is, or the press is managed by the people who are in the degree program.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that was very badly stated. I'm sorry. So yeah, that was one of the things we did is we actually did social media audits of all of the books we published, the authors, to make sure that they had one, because we didn't have a budget. We just didn't have a budget for any promotion. But also I think I'm going to use Hugh Howey, who wrote Wool. I don't know if you guys have read Wool.
I know of it. Yeah.
So
No.
right. So he got published after being
Mhm.
self-published, and
Sure.
I think that has actually been at least part of the reason, like not him specifically, but that phenomenon has been part of the reason why you're expected to promote. You almost have to make a name for yourself before you can get published in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's definitely the case, especially in nonfiction.
Mm.
Oftentimes, it's pretty much impossible to get agented or have a nonfiction book actually picked up unless you already have a built-in audience. I know I've heard of some agents talking about how they won't sign nonfiction authors unless they have a certain number of followers on Twitter, or
Wow.
it's
And
really cutthroat.
there's also the fact that everyone has a word processor now. So any this is going to sound mean. Any dumb jerk can write some stuff and send it in. And so you're talking about slush piles with like hundreds of thousands of manuscripts.
Yeah.
And you hire some poor kid who has to read through these, or I was actually paying to read through the slush pile. And it's not like when you had a typewriter and you had to actually really work at it or write longhand. This sounds mean, but that is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, word processors make it really easy to write stuff, and a lot of people write stuff, and a lot of it isn't good. In fact, most of it isn't.
I'd like
And I'm saying
to
that for my
pivot in
own
like
writing too.
from like a reader's perspective, just to push back, like I love the diversity that's been from authors and, like you said, the non-traditional type of, I guess, epic fantasy quest stories. But one kind of criticism I'd have, and I don't know how to fix it because I know publishing houses are trying to make money over everything else, is that I wish they take, I guess, more risks with the types of stories they make, in a sense where there'd be more standalones. I feel like everything has to be a trilogy now. And I think, like, for an example, I like what Tor.com Publishing's doing. Those types of stories you would never see just if they weren't novellas. The Builders, Sarah Gailey's books, where they're the man-eating hippos and the lesbian librarians, like that would never happen. And I wish, like, bigger, like that Drew was talking about, that there would be more of a marketing push for authors to do that type of stuff. Like Robert Jackson Bennett, he's not only writing fantasy trilogies because he likes to do it, but he'd rather start writing more horrors, but it doesn't, or horror fantasy, but it doesn't pay well. Going to a publisher saying, "Hey, I have a horror fantasy book. It's a standalone." They're gonna be like, "There's just not enough money in that," which I get, but I wish there was some way that more of those could be, and maybe novellas is the way, that they'd be more in the in fantasy stuff right now.
Electronic publishing has really opened the doors to making short format or shorter format storytelling viable financially, because it just plain isn't worth the production cost of printing an 18,000 word novella. Like it's cost prohibitive. But when you can release it on a website or in an ebook, and you never have to worry about it going to the printer, you can make money on that. And we've seen, obviously, Tor.com is the most prominent of those, but there are lots of online genre fiction, like fanzines, that are paying authors to publish short fiction and novellas. Like it's pretty cool.
For sure.
Nice.
All right. Anything else to add, or do you want to get into the game? Oh, good, Brad.
I was just gonna say in response to Drew, like I was actually pretty horrified at how much Murderbot Diaries cost.
Yeah.
Like to buy a physical copy of it.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so yeah.
Yeah. Like she's one of maybe 2 authors from Tor.com whom you can count on them actually publishing a physical copy. Like maybe Sean Ann McGuire.
Yeah.
With the Every Heart a Doorway, Wayward Children. Those sell pretty well, but like it's just in most cases not cost efficient.
Yeah, it was like $15 to $20 a book
for a book this thick.
Yeah, I have one of them, and they're like the builders. It's like the art's incredible,
They're
so I
great
don't regret it at all.
I'm not saying. I just was like,
well, it's like Drew said. This wouldn't happen if it wasn't for ebooks. Like there would be these wouldn't be published at all. That's like the point.
Right.
So I guess thank God for ebooks in a way. Whole different conversation, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
We did one on that, by the way.
I know. Preferred reading. All right, let's get into the game because I'm excited to see what you guys' choices are. I see some of them, but so again, these are going to be. I think we settled on 1, 2, 3, about 6 prompts, 6 or 7 prompts, and we'll just go down the line and our own little publishing house, a collection of authors, and people on Twitter you can put a poll or something, and who had the best one or just the worst, and make fun. I don't care. I just want to get roasted. That's why I'm on here.
You want to get roasted?
I do. I just want to spend hours on Twitter defending myself to trolls.
Oh dear. I guess a clarification is that we did say the authors could be either dead or alive, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So up to our, own discretion which one we want to choose.
I think it was more fun that way. So, especially for some of the categories. So the first one, you can pick one author, their current catalog up to this point, September, day after Labor Day, whatever they have published already. You can pick one author's catalog. And we will start. Let's start with Drew, since I see your name first.
Yeah. So I went for one of the obvious ones here, Robert Jordan.
Oh boy.
I think it's easy to say, well, current catalog. Not going to be anything new coming from Robert Jordan.
What happened? Why?
Yeah, he's
no longer with us.
Yeah, no longer with us, but also has tons of money-making potential going forward because of the TV show.
Absolutely.
And even without the TV show, the books are beloved. Some of the best-selling fantasy books of all time. Mm-hmm. He's sold. We don't have an exact number, but he's sold somewhere between 80 and 100 million copies of his books. It's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like if this was like a sports fantasy draft, there'd be 2 authors who are 1 and 2, and you pick the first one, and I'm pretty sure Red picked the second one that you kind of have to pick with these two options.
Just on the topic of Robert Jordan, I own like 4 copies of Eye of the World, and I haven't even read it. Yes, I have like.
Do you like any
2 hardcovers
covers for them?
Well, they're all the same cover.
Oh my gosh.
Except for one, which is like the whatever 30th, 50th, 20th, whatever anniversary
30th anniversary edition.
Yeah, which it's not worth it, guys. It is not worth it. Anyway, so I have 2 hardcovers, 1 mass paperback, and then the ebook. So good choice on you.
There you go. Straight to his point. You already hooked Panda. All right, Red. How about yours?
So I picked Brandon Sanderson, which is,
of course.
I know that seems like an obvious choice, but it's obvious because he's a workhorse and he puts out consistent good product. And when you're a publishing house, look, he's the type of guy who makes having experimental books possible because he's not experimental. He's, you can count on him and bringing lots of money in. So I have Brandon over here, and he's making me millions of dollars, and then I can pick up some random little experiment. And that's real. I mean, that's how publishing houses think.
Yeah.
You have Stephen King that means you can publish Joe Blow.
Yep. Most authors don't sell enough to pay back their advances, but then you get usually 2 or 3 that way out earn their advances, and that money trickles down to the rest of the authors and allows that diversity in publishing.
Right.
Mhm.
But anyway, he's a workhorse, and the books he's published, even if I don't get his future books, I'm going to be making bank.
Yep.
I think it's also a good choice. It's actually probably the best choice you could have picked, because he releases, I guess, adult fan. We'll call Stormlight adult for this purposes. He young adult with the Steelheart books. He has
Right.
middle. What would the
Middle grade,
Alcatraz
yeah.
books? Middle grade.
Yeah.
So he's got everything covered. I mean, I'm sure a children's book's coming. In every corner of the publishing fantasy world.
Mhm.
The comics,
Right.
for goodness sake. I mean,
Plus book rights, movie rights on all of those books.
oh yes.
Mhm.
Oh yes.
There's definitely going to be something happening there for sure.
All right, Panda. You didn't fill out the sheet,
Mhm.
so I have no idea what you chose for anything. So I'm intrigued.
Surprise! Because I just changed my answer.
Oh no.
I had thought of one, I thought of another one, and now I'm like, no, man, I'm going with my third. I'm gonna just do a plug for Tamara Pierce because I love her books, her catalog. I mean, I wish that she'll have more coming, but I don't know. So whatever she already has published now, like that needs to be cherished and it needs to be reprinted so that everybody can have the chance to read it. But my real answer is gonna be Neil Gaiman. I mean, it's kind of for the same reasoning, I guess. But I think he's a bit more expansive. He's got children's books, which features pandas, by the way. And he's got the Sandman graphic novels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I have a lot of his books already, but he still has like huge backlist that I haven't even gotten to. So
Man,
yeah.
I didn't even think of Gaiman. I can't believe. Real quick, polling all three of you? What are your thoughts on Gaiman overall?
I think I've read every single thing that he's written. I'm pretty
Really?
sure.
Wow.
I'm pretty
Whoa.
sure. Maybe a couple of the children's books I missed.
Yeah.
I love him.
Okay. I think I'm like hit or miss, depending. Like I love the one that's like underground London.
Neverwhere.
Neverwhere. I loved American Gods. I didn't love. I think Drew was talking about this. I love The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Yeah.
Either you hate it or you love it. I can't remember.
I
but it's
love
divisive.
it.
It's fine.
Me too.
It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people I think it's fine.
He is a bit hit or miss for me. Usually, like I'll enjoy what it is, not necessarily like overly love it. And then his short story collections like are definitely hit or miss. But when they're good, they are really good.
Yeah. What was the one? Fragile Things? Is that the one I have? I forget. But yeah, he. All right. It was just one. Sorry.
I'm
That's
just
sore
saying,
subject.
No, it's not.
Why not talk about it?
Hey, it's like Fight Club, Panda. You don't.
It's further in the game.
Oh, sorry. I see what you're doing.
Oh,
I
okay.
see what
So we're
you're doing
getting
there.
sneak peeks here.
Touche. All right. All right. That was a great pick, Neil Gaiman. Touche. All right. Mine. No, I went with my favorite. I am totally biased here, but I went with Robin Hobb.
Yeah.
And this is from and this is from someone who's not even finished her whole catalog. I'm just going through the Dragon Keeper books now. But this is one of those authors who I just immediately fell in love with. They're now reprinting her books, like the illustrated editions. I don't know if you've seen them, but they are incredible. It's like I'm not one of usually those people who want anniversary books or anything, or want more than one copy just because maybe I'm cheap or whatever. Or I think sometimes they're a sellout. But like these are just totally worth having, just to even flip through. I think it's funny when you I think Red brought up movies adaptations. When picking this, I was thinking like what could like feasibly be a successful one, like with the minimal risk. And first I thought Robin Hobb would be perfect, and then I thought about it more, and I don't know what to say anymore. Now I think it's not perfect. I think if it's done well, it's like it's not that CGI expansive, so it's not as expensive, and it's mostly a character study. I know Era compared the first trilogy to like fantasy meets Don Draper and Mad Men, which I kind of get a little bit.
mean,
But I'm
okay.
just saying, you keep the
I was
cost
not
down.
okay with that.
No, yeah, I love Don Draper and Mad Men, but I think I think it's a feasible thing to do. Even a company wouldn't have to spend a boatload of money on CGI and things like Wheel of Time, even though it looks incredible. But there's not much commitment. You just get a good actors, and put it in a world. And
Gotta
I think
have
it could
good
be successful.
sets.
Good
Good
sets too. Thank
sets.
you.
Yeah.
Like the Shannara one on MTV. Like
This
you
is
just
why
know right away. You're like, no, God, it's not happening. Um,
this is why I think fantasy fans need to start advocating for animation.
oh, definitely,
Mm.
especially for Sanderson. I
It's
think I would,
it's flat
yeah.
out cheaper to do than a bunch of live actors and CGI. It just is.
And you just have more leeway. You can just do more things when
Right.
it's animated. That
I mean,
Right.
there's
I
pros
mean,
and cons
Mistborn
because
is an anime.
so yeah, she has a whole, all the Elder Link series is finished. I don't know. I don't even know if she's writing anything new anymore. So I
do
figured this would be
you
an ideal.
do you also get her as Megan Lindholm?
I was gonna cheat and
Ooh.
say yes.
Mm.
But it's up for if that's unfair. I'm fine with it.
I
But
think
yes,
that's fair.
that's fair.
I
I guess
actually
you.
considered Sean Maguire for this one
Mm-hmm.
myself because you'd get
So did I.
Mira Grant as well.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking.
And A.
Yeah,
Deborah Baker now. Yeah.
she's crazy prolific.
I was thinking, obviously, Stephen King. I was like, do I get the Bachman
Yeah.
books? Not that it
Yeah.
matters because he has so much, but it'd be a
I
nice
mean,
bonus.
Running Man.
Yeah, I like Running Man. So, all right, all good picks. We'll twist it a little bit in this next category, and we're going to do authors, but going forward, future releases. So some authors you might know, we might know what's coming down the pipe. Other ones have no clue. And this time, let's start with Panda.
Oh dear. Okay. I mean, I just wanted to put Shauna Maguire for everything, but so that's just like my overall pick. But I'll answer with Ken Liu. So
Ooh.
he translated the first book and the third book of Remembrance of Earth's Past, The Three Body Problem, and Death's End, which I've only read. Okay, this is really silly because I've only read his translated work, The Three Body Problem, and nothing else by him, except for maybe one short story. But he is such a interesting author. And he's got a bunch of short stories and short story collection. And he's got the Dandelion Dynasty, which is the third book is coming out in November. So I would get that as part of my publishing house.
Nice.
And I'm
I think it's
very
split into two
excited.
books.
Is it split into two?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, well, even better for me. Um, and I just think he has a lot of potential, and he's going to be he is going to be a favorite author of mine once I read more of his stuff, and I think he's going to stick around in the cultural memory for a really long time. So.
Absolutely. I love the Dandelion Dynasty. I thought about posting on here that I will pay for someone to read I will buy those books and ship it to them. That's how much I want. Yeah. Hey, just let me know, Red.
Wow.
I love
I've
them.
not read it yet. So.
I got Era to read it, and he liked the short stories better, but it's heavily takes after like a historic event that I'm not up to date on. But if you don't know it, it's fresh to me. But the writing style is I've never read anything like it. It's like almost he's writing from like an omnipresent perspective where it's kind of, I know this is going to sound boring, but it's like reading a history book that's exciting. Like you're having someone tell you this history of something that's happening, kind of like a voiceover in like the beginning of a movie, but for the whole book, and you still connect with the characters despite that. It's surreal. I loved it. It's a
I will let you know when I start the series because I've got the books.
good. They're chunky books. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Red, what about you?
The Wells, because I want to have my hand in any more Murderbot things that ever come out because I love Murderbot and it's amazing. And I just, she's been around for a while and she's kind of been a sleeper, but Murderbot really was a breakout thing for her. And yeah, she's amazing. She has this great sense of humor. I mean, she's very, very funny about very dark things, which is my favorite kind of humor.
I think we're
So
getting at least two or three more Murderbot books for sure. So
I
I'm
want
excited.
1,000 more. Not really. Not really.
Did you get that Subterranean Press edition? That thing was gorgeous.
It's so pretty, but it sold out so quickly, and money,
I
so
don't
much money.
have. Look, I have 2 children that are teenagers. Do you know how expensive teenagers are? You think your baby is expensive? Your teenager is 100 times more expensive.
Get
They're
ready
gonna
for
have
that.
yeah, they're gonna have to forfeit college, Red. I'm sorry. You need that book.
Well, luckily my oldest is like, I want to be an electrician, which does not require a college degree.
Oh, yeah.
Smart kid.
He's like, it's okay, Mom. I'm going to live with you until I save up for a house. I'm like, okay, you can pay rent now that you're working full time.
There you go.
All right.
Because
Great
I am
choice.
a horrible mother.
Whoa, take it easy. All right, Drew, who'd you choose?
I chose Arcady Martine. I think she's a young author, kind of just starting her career, but she started off obviously with a bang. Won all sorts of awards and is working away at least one more novel, and has talked about the potential for future books in the Texcalan universe. I think she's got a really bright future ahead of her.
Nice.
Red, you're laughing and shaking your head. What is that, distaste from you?
Already knows how I feel about Memory Called Empire. So.
Yeah.
I haven't read
on that.
I haven't read A Desolation Called Peace yet, but I do want to read it because her writing is very imagery heavy.
Yes.
Yeah, and her world building was so interesting with the language, the poetry. So I do want to read more by her. I wasn't like, oh my goodness, this is my favorite new thing with A Memory Called Empire, but I do see the potential that she has. So I'm excited.
So here's what I will say. I think that part of my issue with the book was it was overhyped for me.
Probably,
Because
yeah.
I read it after it already won the Hugo, wasn't it? Or was it the
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hugo.
And I'm not saying she's untalented. I think she is. I just think there's some problems with that book that I had really big problems with. But I think that, she's probably is going to go somewhere. And it probably
Yeah.
That
is
was her
really good.
debut, right?
I know.
Yeah, that was-
That she's going somewhere. She's not, like, there was issues with that book. I mean, there's issues with Atlantis.
Yeah.
A lot of issues.
Yeah. If her career trajectory mirrors that of Brandon Sanderson,
Yes. then you made a
I'm
wise
not going to be
choice there.
complaining.
and
Yeah.
and it might.
choice.
It might.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as first books go, it could be worse. Could be Ready
It was
Player
good.
One,
It
and
was
nobody
good,
wants that.
Oh, no.
Hey, I enjoyed Ready Player One for what it is. I
Right,
will
listen.
not touch Ready Player Two.
Me too. No, neither would I. I was telling Red, I think it's a good gateway drug like fantasy sci-fi book for someone who hasn't read books yet. I don't know how we're getting to Ready Player. I'm not trying to talk about Ready Player One in this freaking episode,
Can we
but
just not talk
I'm just saying, young people or if you don't read much, it's a good gateway. Sorry.
Nice plug.
Yeah.
There's an Inking Out Loud episode on it. Go listen to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That's what we should plug. That episode on Ready Player One.
NSFW.
Oh,
yeah,
even better.
don't listen with your kids, please.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about Inking Out Loud is that they do swear, which is why I have such a hard time with this podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a green team after dark where we can curse all we
We
want.
really are.
What you got, Yeti? What's your pick?
All great picks. I went with Pierce Brown for 3 things.
Mhm.
I just put 3 things for. I don't know if we really have 3 things. One, the Red Rising books I feel like already have a huge fan base, and I feel like
Mhm.
I could see him kind of getting out of like all the authors. Just looking in the genre now, I'm not saying he's the most talented, but the one who could get closest to like a Brandon Sanderson type of fandom if he keeps expanding that world. And not even just that world, but anything else he does. I feel like it could be Pierce Brown. I am curious. One of the reasons I picked it, he's clearly having some. He pushed the 6th book back in this series. He's clearly having creative burnout, and I'm curious what he's going to write after this. Like, what is he going to stay in this world? And I think it's like not a problem, but it reminds me of like Joe Abercrombie. Like he's obviously very successful with the First Law books. He's obviously one of my favorites. And then he took a break because he was burnt out for 3 young adult books not set in the world. And I don't think they were failures by any means, but sales wise, I don't think he did as well as those First Law. And I think he just has such a rabid fan base for more First Law books that he had to go back to it. Not had to, but it just, and now he's back in that world. And I'm kind of curious how that's going to work out for Pierce Brown. And if, and I'm just curious to see, I love when authors do something new outside their comfort zone, or just even if it's in their comfort zone. Like that's why I love Robert Jackson Bennett. I love his fantasy. I love how he dives into horror. If you ever read his standalone horror books, they're incredible. And I love when authors can kind of do that. Number 2, just another thing, he's incredibly good looking and he's like really young, and I need that on my lineup. I don't know, maybe I'd be able to go hang out with him at cons, get a perk. So look at the guy. It's incredible. How can you be that good at writing, or famous, right? And that good? It's not fair sometimes. So yeah, that was an easy pick for me, having him.
Did you have a number 3?
No, I told you. I said 3, but I really don't have 3. I think that was just the good looking part, and just curious to see. I just like his potential. He's young.
Yeah.
And he's
I think
ridiculously good looking.
It's unfair.
He is good looking. I admit.
It actually makes me
yes.
angry.
I've never seen a picture of this guy. I'm kind of
Really?
curious now.
I'll just go
man.
look him up. Go look him up.
Yeah, it's no author should be this good looking. And
So,
and he,
Yeah, it's a good looking dude.
yeah, he should not be in the sci-fi fantasy world. How dare you?
He's got those like that like dreamy boy band look.
Yeah.
oh
Exactly.
yes, he
Yeah,
does.
he's perfect for if he gets a big following.
So about the fan base, right? Like
Right.
they are rabid, like very, very loyal. He now has merch from the Red Rising world. They do very well.
He needs to step it up with that. It's only like 3. Like there's only like 3 logos, and he has a whole world of like different. If
They're
you ever read
working
those
on
books, well,
there's actually a new drop coming soon as of this recording. But anyway, and he did mention that so he did mention when he was on the tour for Dark Age that he wants to write a fantasy, like actual fantasy book, and it won't be in the Red Rising world. So, and he's written a screenplay now that got turned into a movie.
Yeah, it's not good. I watched it, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did
No
not watch it.
disrespect. No disrespect to him. It's fine. It's at Sundance.
He's
Not great.
cute.
We already went over that, Red.
And he has board games, and he's got it all. I don't know what else
He's
to
also
say.
a huge like history nerd and like political science nerd, which shows in Red Rising.
Yeah, the quotes he puts and stuff. Yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh no, I think we're gonna mix it up a little bit now. So this next prompt, if you could combine 2 authors to write a series, like S.A. Corey from The Expanse, and Drew, you can help me out. The 2 authors are
Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham, I believe.
Abraham, that's it. Yep. So if you could do that and it could be any type of series, but 2 authors combining, or book series. And Red, we'll start with you.
Okay. So I picked Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Jim Butcher.
Whoa, what a mix.
Yeah, I can definitely see it.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
Because, I mean, Sherlock Holmes is not the film noir aesthetic that Jim Butcher has, but that would not exist without him, without Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
And so Harry and Sherlock are both very broken people. They're really messed up people. I mean, Holmes is a cocaine addict. I don't know.
Whoa.
There's a lot of people who don't know that.
No.
But really smart. Harry's dealing with a lot of childhood trauma and drama. I mean, he kills his. Oh,
Hey, spoilers.
Keep that. But I think that having this urban fantasy kind of aesthetic and this Victorian, I mean, there's kind of a lot of similarities because Victorian England was kind of grungy. London was kind of
Sure. Yeah.
and there's like the street kids and all that kind of stuff. And I just think it would be really interesting to have them come together and write me a fantasy novel.
You personally? Oh, I see.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah,
A
me
good choice.
personally. And I will share it with the world, but I'm just saying it's going to be for me personally.
Nice. I like that. That was good. All right, Drew. Which two did you pick?
Yeah, I loved this prompt because I'm going for Matthew Stover and Robert Jackson Bennett.
Oh,
Nice.
I think these two could write one heck of a dark urban fantasy. They both are great character writers. I think Bennett has a little bit of an edge on the world building side, but Stover has the writing chops. He has the prose that to kind of reinforce. Like I just see them synergizing really well. They have enough similarities in their style that they'd work well together, and where one has any sort of weakness, the other one is strong in that area. I'd kill to read a story co-authored by these two guys.
man. My God. Now I'm thinking of like a buddy cop novel with Sigrid and Kane together.
Oh,
Like,
that'd be so great.
I don't think I could handle it.
I don't know who either of these authors
Oh,
are.
right.
I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah,
right.
so Matthew Stover, Matthew Woodring Stover, he's best known for his work in the Star Wars Expanded Universe. He wrote the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, which is shockingly good. It's like legendary in the Star Wars fandom for how it took a movie that was okay, like pretty fun movie, but some of the character arcs didn't really land, and he turned those relationships into like heartbreakingly good stories in that novelization.
Wow.
But he also wrote The Acts of Cain, which was a very dark, brutal fantasy that kind of he wrote about a decade before that sort of thing got popular. He started writing in the 90s, and if he started in the 2000s, I think he'd be kind of on that Abercrombie level of popularity with the grimdark crowd.
Nice.
So he's more popular for the Star Wars stuff than the Kane books.
Oh, yeah.
I've always known him from Kane, but I guess because Star Wars is such a big universe.
Yeah. He definitely sold more books. I mean, not that Kane was a failure. I just had an opportunity to have Matthew Stover on Inking Out Loud the other day, and he pointed out, he's like, look, Heroes Die has been in print for almost 25 years now. Like, it's still selling.
Yeah.
But he was never a number one bestseller for Kane, but his Star Wars books were bestsellers. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Nice.
And I gotta say, a shout out to Matt here for Robert Jackson Bennett, Divine Cities. It's largely due to him that I read those in the first place, and they quickly became some of my favorite books. So
Nice rec, Yeti.
Just peddling those drugs that Robert Jackson had. A little taste, that's all it needed.
leave me a broken man.
That's the goal.
They're amazing books, but they are not easy on the soul.
Yeah, I cried.
Oh.
Yeah, I cried.
Yeah.
Oh, not something I want to read right
Yeah, perfect during this day and age.
That's sort of like a beautifully heartbreaking kind of thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Panda, what about you? Again, you leave us in suspense. There's no notes in here.
Okay. So my two authors are, the first one is Catherine Addison, also known as Sarah Monette, and she is the author of The Goblin Emperor and recently The Witness for the Dead. She also has published a lot of short fiction, which I haven't read, and I think she's published that under Sarah Monette. But I really like her character work. I love The Goblin Emperor and that world. And then my second author would be P. Jelly Clark, who is newer published. And I read Ring Shout by him, which was really, really good. And also he's got the Dead Djinn universe. He's got like short stories, and then the novel, A Master of Djinn, just came out recently. And he's also really good with character work and world building. And when I read A Dead Djinn in Cairo, I was so impressed. Like, it is such a short story, But I was like, oh my goodness, I'm all in. I'm immersed. I want more from this universe. He sold me with that short story. So now I'm reading more of the books in that universe. So I think the two of them, with their really good character work and just immersive world building, would be phenomenal.
Yeah, nice. And Clark is one of those writers who got his breakthrough because of Tor.com, because of that proliferation of short format genre fiction that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. It's come full circle, and like he is somebody who just his imagination is wild, and it's wild in a way that I like. Like there's imagination which Jeff Vandermeer that I don't like and does not work well with me, but P. Jelly Clark his does. So.
Nice. The Goblin Empire, it's been on my list forever just because they say it's like a feel-good fantasy. So I've been like saving it for a day
Yes.
when I need like an uplifting, just happy read.
It is the opposite of Grimdark, and there is one thing about it, which is it does have a lot of made-up words like elven, goblin words. So if you are okay with that, right, just push past that, and then you'll enjoy the story. And it is very character-driven, so just be aware of that.
I have not read The Goblin Emperor, but I've read The Witness for the Dead, and that is, first of all, despite Panda's feelings, you can read that book and not be spoiled.
But okay.
Anyway, I loved it. It was great. It was a great book. I really enjoyed it.
Listen, I'm a fantasy fan. Give me all the Orcish and Elvish language you can handle. Right? I'm not gonna be like, no. I don't deal with that fantasy stuff.
I want to podcast a book where I can't say any of the names or any of the words.
I feel like that's like
something I need in my life.
We have, so for our Goblin Emperor episode for Green Team, Huron Fan was the host of it. We played a game where he would say one of the words and we had to guess whether it was a person, place, or thing. And mostly the game was him trying to pronounce the words.
I feel his pain.
I mean, I listen to the audiobooks and I still can't pronounce the name.
You're just very special, Little Red.
Oh dear.
So
what'd you pick, Yeti?
So for my pick, I did it's just a standalone book, not a series, but I went with Stephen King, who hasn't been talked about. This whole thing's genre fiction, but he's obviously fantasy too, with the Dark Tower and stuff. Yeah. I picked him and Robert McCammon. Have anyone ever read any of his books?
No.
Incredible.
What did he write?
My favorite is Boy's Life, if you've ever heard that. And so the reason I picked these two, it's not for King's horror, so to speak, but his coming of age story. So like Stand By Me or The Body, his short story. I think it's one of the best coming of age stories of all time that just brings you back to a childhood that's set in maybe the 50s or 60s. I wasn't a kid back then, but I still feel I relate to every kid moment he puts in them, similar to stuff like in It, the non-disgusting horror parts, but the friendships when you're young. And Boy's Life is kind of the same thing. It's about it's hard to describe this book, but it's more fantastical, I guess, in the sense a kid and his dad witness a car crash that goes into a lake, and from there it's kind of unsolved. Yeah, it's darker than it seems, but it's about growing up, growing old, kind of what that means from the boy's perspective, with a bunch of fantasy kind of, I don't want to say trippy, but it has a lot of, it's very image heavy. And some of the quotes in there, just, it's like you could put 50 of them in your yearbook about just, parents, family growing up. And so I think between both of them combining, because I thought about this category, it's like, I think it'd be cool. I thought at first it'd be cool to pick two like total polar opposites that maybe you'd see how they mesh. But instead of this one, I went with like just two who are at the top of what they do. And I think coming of age, just writing kids about stories about kids, I don't think there's any better between those two stories. So it's kind of like for Drew. It's like if you merge the talents of Patrick Waugh and Martin Brodeur, just they do the same thing, just awesome, So that's why I went with them. Just make an awesome, massive 1,000-page book about growing up and making me cry at the end with some quote.
I
So
don't know if I would
that-
read it if it's 1,000 pages, but
yeah, no,
I like the sound
Well-
of the premise.
yeah, don't read it. They're both of those books. Actually, the body's really quick. It's a short story, but Boy's Life is big. But that's like I would recommend if you want to like a good standalone. That kind of is introspective and just entertaining too. It's got some horror elements in it as well, but it's dope. I love
Okay.
that book.
Nice.
All right, so next we're gonna keep it simple, and I think people should now get their phones out, so because they're probably gonna want to Google images after hearing this one. But if you could pick a cover artist for your favorite cover artist, do the cover for all your books, people's books, who would you pick? And I'll switch it up. I'll double dip. I'll go first, and I pick Richard Anderson. If you don't know who that is, he did the cover of The Builders. You definitely recognize his stuff. Kings of the Wild, the Mirror Empire books, Beyond Redemption. What Brian Staveley's books? Oh, The Emperor's Blades.
Unhewn Throne.
Yep, those books too. So he has like a really I buy his books before I knew who he was. I just gravitated to those. That's why I bought The Builders. I never really heard of Daniel Polanski until then. I just saw a bunch of critters that look they're about to kill someone and they have swords. Just really cool dynamic artwork on the cover. And sometimes I honestly God, I think the artwork eclipses what's in the book in a few cases, like The Dinosaur Lords by Victor Milan. No offense to him, rest in peace. But the cover is just way better than the books. And it's a sad fact.
Wow.
But that's how good the covers are. Like if you look at The Dinosaur Lords on the Barnes and Noble or wherever, you're like, that looks like this is going to be the best book ever. That's what he like. I really think it's like a boon to authors to have him do his work. I really do. And I think that's obviously the goal with good cover art. But I think he's helped authors. I think any author would say that too. So that's why I went with mine. So
yeah, that's an awesome pick. I really like his art myself. His artwork was what got me to pick up The Emperor's Blades in the first place. He has there's like enough sharpness to it that it feels dynamic, but he also has this sort of blurry thing going on where he doesn't go into detail, and I think that leaves this like sense of mystery with each of his covers that I really, really like.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's like sharp and blurry, like those two words. It's really weird how it's kind of, but it works. It does. Yeah, so that was mine. What about you, Panda? Who'd you pick?
I picked Tommy Arnold, and he is the one that has done the cover art for the Subterranean Press editions for Red Rising, for Murderbot, and he's done Gideon the Ninth and Harrow the Ninth. And I follow him on Instagram, and he posted this picture of this dragon image that he did, and I was like, I don't know what this book is, but I want to read it because it's just stunning. The way that like his style is a bit similar to Richard Anderson, but his is a bit more. It's a little more sharp, and not as brushy. But I love it so much, and I just want to be his friend and go into his studio and watch him work.
Oh, perks of the job.
And he did The Armored Saint as well. I always liked the cover of Armored Saint.
Oh yeah,
me too. Yeah. Sorry, I'm googling now. See what else.
I like a lot of these. These are good looking covers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. While I do that, all right. Red, who'd you pick, or what covers did you pick?
So first of all, I am not a visual arts person at all, but I will say whoever did the cover of Twilight did a brilliant job. You have a black and white picture, two hands holding out, and an apple sitting in the middle of the hands. And it's just, the book is not, I'm not recommending the book. I just think that was a brilliant image. It's very, very simple, clean. Unfortunately, does not really give you a sense of the book. The book is nothing like that picture.
Is it about apples?
It's not about apples. It's also not about Adam and Eve, but it invokes that. And
so I just looked this up, and Stephanie Meyer chose that image herself.
Wow.
So
that would be the credit, I guess.
I do like the simple covers sometimes. Most times, actually. I think they really can be more effective than the cool. And I think fantasy does not have that problem. But I
It
don't think
does
you
have
see
a
as
problem
many.
with that.
Yeah, because you want those eye-catching kind of fantastical covers where I think a more confident author or best one who's more financially who's paid off more for the publisher, they can kind of get away with that stuff if they've already sold more.
But she wasn't at the time.
No, definitely not. No, yeah.
No, I think fantasy does suffer from cluster on their covers. So there was a bad word I didn't say.
Yes.
But the covers are often overdone, and there's just so much going on. I hate every single Wheel of Time cover I've ever seen. I just don't like them.
Wow.
Oh, Drew.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, Drew.
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry. There's just too much. There's too much. Like,
Do you like the Stormlight archive covers?
no, not really.
Oh.
Red, how
There's
could
too
you?
Wow.
much. There's just too much.
We're gonna
going
get
on.
canceled because of you, Red. Good my God.
I didn't say I didn't like the books. I'm just saying I don't like the covers because there's too much going on. And Twilight, a book I do not like, has a better cover because it's simple
Oh,
and austere. But that's also a personal taste thing. Like,
that was
my ex
unexpected.
is the one who hung the pictures on the walls, not me, because I just didn't care. I'm like, okay, it's blue. I like it. That's fine.
Well, hating Wheel of Time covers dovetails nicely into Drew's pick.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
my artist is basically the opposite of what Red's talking about. I picked Raymond Swanland, who he did the Towers of Midnight ebook cover, but he's probably best known for his work with Glenn Cook. He did the covers for all of the Black Company omnibus versions and the Dread Empire books. He also did John Brown's fantasy books, the Servant of a Dark God, that trilogy. He has really dynamic, really action-packed, stylistic covers. One of the things that has always stood out for him is like how much motion there is on the covers. Every cover I've seen from him has this like sweeping aesthetic to it, where there are always cloaks blowing in the wind, fires blowing in the wind. You know, there's always this sharp diagonal motion to his book covers, and he's the reason I picked up the Black Company in the first place. I saw the cover he did for the Books of the South, and I was browsing at Barnes & Noble. I was like, that is the coolest book cover I have ever seen. I need to read these, and I never looked back. And then a couple of years later, when they were doing the Wheel of Time ebook re-releases, and they picked him for Towers of Midnight, and I was like, this is perfect because it's pairing with the hammer and the forge flames. Once again, that kind of diagonal motion coming off the hammer. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Before I looked at it before we went on for the record the Perrin one, and I literally wanted to run through a wall. I was so hopped up when I saw that cover. I was like, oh, it's like the hammer's on fire. I was like, we're ready to go. This is just what I need. Yeah. Did he do any of the other ebook ones for the Wheel of Time?
No, for that run, they chose a different artist for each book.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then they had Michael Whalen do A Memory of Light, and then used his ebook cover also for the physical version.
So I have the ebook. That's the whole series.
Oh,
Just the 3-circle, and I actually really like that. Like, I'm like, this is what I like.
Yeah, that simple aesthetic.
Minimalist.
It's still pretty.
I do like that. I do like that simple Wheel of Time one. And so I guess the risk is that any of our books that get made into films or movies, they're going to have that big sticker that says Amazon, and it's going to ruin our cover. And
Or
Netflix
it's not even a sticker.
Man.
It's just
Yeah,
printed
whatever
on the
that is.
cover.
Yeah,
You
we
cannot
gotta-
remove it.
It's in my contract.
Terrible.
I can't do that. All right. So we have 2 more prompts left, and this next one is my favorite. It's so if you could have another author from another or an author from another genre write in sci-fi, fantasy, SFF, what author would you choose? And you can, if you want, you can describe what kind of book they will write. I will, of course. But let's start with you, Drew. What author did you choose?
I chose Alexander Dumas.
Oh,
I think he would be great to write a
You would.
like some sort of a D&D-esque adventure fantasy. I think that'd be a ton of fun.
Whoa.
I love
My mind is blown right now.
that.
Thinking
I'm
about
so
it.
excited.
I just seeing him in the. I will say, quick plug for. Have you heard of Sebastian de Castel, the
No.
author? He writes like a Three Musketeers type fantasy. It's so good. It's like because it's
Oh yes, I have. It's
yes, it's
agree.
fantastic. Just
Trader's
the
Trader's Blade. Is that
Trader's
the one?
Blade's the first one. Oh,
It's really good.
speaking of good cover art too, but like just the dynamic between the three leads and the back and forth. It's if you like the Three Musketeers and are jonesing for that kind of fantasy, it's fantastic. $4. Again, I will pay people on Discord message me to read them. But
Yeah,
Alexander
you're going to be
Dumas,
buying a lot of people books. If you
I
don't
know. I
shut
gotta.
up.
Yeah, this sounds awesome.
I gotta work overtime. This isn't good. I didn't even think of that. That's good. I'd like to see him do a D&D. Alexander Dumas. All right, Red. Who did you pick?
I picked Neil Ferguson. He's a Scottish historian who is also an American citizen. And his most recent book was Doom, The Politics of Catastrophe. He's written books about money and he's written books about secret societies. And he just seems like a perfect guy to write a sci-fi book.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I love also post-apocalyptic fiction. And that's what he writes a lot about. I mean, he wrote about the fall of, I don't want to get too political because some of it is very political writing, but he would write an interesting sci-fi.
Dystopian sci-fi.
Leibowitz type.
It is funny on this episode. I don't think we chose too many sci-fi oriented people, right?
No.
Did we more gravitate towards fantasy?
Yeah.
Which is good. Good job by everyone. But some people
It's
I just
coming.
noticed it. Okay, it's good.
I'm about 50-50 with my picks.
Yeah.
I don't read a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah, good job, Red. Stick together.
Whoa.
All right. No, sorry. I don't know why I'm taking shots.
Throwing
It's
shade
sci-fi.
over here, yeah.
I know.
Vermont, so I guess
I don't know what
that's
happened. I don't know.
sci-fi.
Yeah, learn about his sci-fi.
Yeah, there you go. That works. All right, Panda, who'd you choose?
Okay, I had a really hard time with this one because I have 3 people that I chose.
Ooh.
So I've decided which one of these 3 I'm gonna really go with, but I will do honorary mention. So we've got Delia Owens, who wrote Where the Crawdads Sing, which is considered literary fiction. And that was her debut book, actually. And it's the way that she writes, like, she got me so invested and interested in a marsh. Like, it's just her writing is so immersive. When she was describing this feather, and I was like, I want to see this feather. I can see it in my mind. I want to touch this feather. Anyway, so I was very impressed with her debut. I think she would write a pretty cool, like, fantasy book that's more like low key with subtle, like, mystery happening in the background. And then my second honorary mention is Emily Henry, who is well known for contemporary romance, Beach Read, and her latest is People We Meet on Vacation. I've read both of those this year, and I really, really enjoyed it. Like, it's not, I mean, I know romance genre gets a bad rep, but this is smart. Like, her characters are real, they have depth, and I love her books. So I think she would write some fun, like, comedic fantasy romance. I think she would do really well with that. And then my real pick, I don't even know if any of y'all have heard of this,
Not
but
fair. You cheated so much.
hey,
I also
he
have an
said I
honorable
could,
mention.
okay?
Yeah, I know. I
Yeti,
also-
Yeti said I could. Graham Simsian. I am probably butchering that guy's name. I'm so sorry. But he wrote a series called the Dawn Tillman series, and I've only read the first book, and I just want to leave it at that because I really like that book. It's called The Rosie Project, and it is also contemporary romance, but it's more from the male perspective. The guy is the main character as opposed to the female. And he also has a book published about data modeling essentials, and it's a how-to guide for data modeling. I think he would be able to write a comedic sci-fi with probably a little bit of romance in it. So that's my pick for this prompt. My real pick.
I think it'll sell millions of copies. I like it. That's a good one. So this prompt, this is what I thought of to do when I wanted to do the episode, I brought it up to you guys. It was because of this one, because I was like, what would be cool to do? So I'm not going to choose this because it would literally sell 5 copies. But the author Richard Yates, if anyone heard of Richard Yates, he's like,
No.
I think he's one of the best American authors. He's dead now, but he writes like he's kind of like a modern day Great Gatsby, where
Oh,
he
Yates.
writes about
Yes.
couples in like the 50s who live the American
Yeah.
who live like the American dream. There was a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, Revolutionary Road. You ever heard of it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's about couples kind of just living what would is supposed to be the American dream in the white picket fence, and just their life is terrible. They cheat on each other. They think they're going to go on do these great things, but they just live banal lives. So I thought it'd be fun if you just had a couple of farmers living out there. They have their orphan son, who obviously will be the chosen one someday, but they don't know that, and they just argue all the time because there's no excitement in their life. One of them cheats with the
Oh no.
steel smith, or one of these workers, and it's just a terrible. But it wouldn't sell, so I didn't pick that one. But I would read it.
It wouldn't
Uh,
because it's terrible.
Yes, they're very depressing, and they're just you do
I'm
not feel good
sorry, like-
afterwards. Well, maybe fantasy needs some more just hard relationship books. No,
Some feel bad books.
yeah, feel bad. Yeah, antithesis to the Goblin Emperor. But no. So what I did pick, and I would read this book so fast. So I picked Gillian Flynn. She's done most famous for Gone Girl. She read those
Oh.
books, but I love her other books too, Dark Places and Sharp Objects. And she writes like dark thrillers. If you've seen Gone Girl, you can tell what you're getting into. But I thought if she would write like a murder mystery in the vein of like Clue, the movie Clue, except more serious, but do it like a band of adventurers are all sleeping over in an inn. An orc, an elf, a dwarf, that a human, that like cat thing that you can play at Skyrim. All those things, they're all sitting around, and then the power goes out. Well, there is no power in fantasy times, but the candles go out.
Depends.
The candle goes out and the cat thing is dead, and they're like, who did it? And it's like, very, and there's because she writes like good plot twists, and I was like, I would read it in a heartbeat. Who would read that?
Yeti,
What?
Yeti, can you write this book, please?
No.
You've got the bones here.
If she just inserts the talent she has into my body, maybe it'll be like actually, yeah, I'll write it with her. It'll be like those James Patterson, Bill Clinton books where Bill Clinton doesn't write those books, or probably James Patterson doesn't either. Third person, but yeah. So that's what I was thinking one day. I was just like eating lunch. I'm like, man, that'd be pretty cool. You just said like, who did it? Kind of like the Hateful Eight with Quentin Tarantino, but with fantasy characters around there.
This is
Anyway.
brilliant.
Nice.
This is brilliant.
I love
Right.
it.
That's
I'd
why we have
buy
this
it.
episode. I know.
You're
I know.
so much smarter than me.
No. Please,
Way
you're
more
buttering me up.
creative.
Yeah, no, you're buttering me up. But I gotta think of a title still. We got to think. We'll workshop it. But anyway, those were all fun.
Green team fanfic.
So the last one, and I like this one. So we're gonna pick an author who, if you could choose any author to have a collection of short stories, and I like this prompt because I just love when like when I heard Joe Abercrombie was having a short story collection coming out of the first Law World, I almost fainted. I was like, this is the best thing ever. Now, it doesn't always pan out. I don't know about you guys. I'm again hit or missing. That's how short story collections are. Not every story is going to hit, obviously. Usually I'd rather read Ken Liu may be different, but usually I'd rather read a full novel. But I still think it's kind of cool, especially if it's an author who hasn't written short fiction before, to kind of see what stories they come up with and what it would be like. So anyway, Panda, who'd you go with?
Okay, I probably went with the most boring answer because this guy already writes short stories. But I went with Ted Chiang, and he wrote Story of Your Life, which became the movie Arrival. And he has a more recent collection called Exhalation, which I haven't read, but I'm very excited to. And for me, his writing is that is the essence of sci-fi, like hard sci-fi. And I don't read a lot of it, but when I do, and when I find ones I really gel with, I'm like, my mind is just whirling, trying to, understand what the author is writing and like depicting. And if you haven't read any of his stuff, highly recommend if you like hard sci-fi. But he's a technical writer. Like, he started writing short stories for fun for himself, but like his day job is being a technical writer. I think by now he may be retired, so I'm hoping that we're gonna get more works from him. But he's not like very active, on social media, so I don't know that much about him, and I just want more of his stuff.
I'd never heard of him, to be quite honest with you. So I'm intrigued. I know. Yeah.
Have you seen Arrival?
I have. I love that movie. Yep.
Okay,
Made me cry.
go read the
always good.
story.
Okay. All right. Red, who'd you choose?
Neil Gaiman.
Oh, why you ought to.
Yes, hit or miss. I'm assuming, by the way, the rule is that it has to be one author for all the short stories.
Yeah, I mean, you can switch it up, but that's what I had in mind. Yeah, just one author if
So-
they could put out a collection.
I was torn between Jim Butcher and Neil Gaiman, but I already did Jim Butcher earlier, so I picked Neil Gaiman for this, specifically for other people from his short story collection, Fragile Things, which is one of the most horrifying, terrifying stories I've ever read, and it's not a horror story. And it's just so darn good and kept me up at night after I read it. And like I said, it's
Oh,
not
wow.
a horror story technically. It's about a guy who walks into a room and there's this crazy creature there, and it's like, this is hell. But it's not like, you have to read it.
Oh, I know which one
So-
you're talking
It's
about.
so damn good.
Okay, yes.
Sorry, Yeti.
Go read it.
It's
so
so
good.
darn good.
Yeah.
But he writes a lot of really great stories. His Norse mythology book was basically short stories.
That was great.
Granted, rewriting, but it was really good. You mentioned the ocean one,
Ocean at the
Ocean at the end of the lane.
and that's basically a short story.
Yeah, it's a novella.
It's like novella.
Yeah.
Maybe 110 pages long, something like that.
Right, yeah. But he just he knows how to write a short, concise story. And yeah, not all of them are great. But when he's on, he's really, really on.
He always has something that's just a little off, He's one of those writers who has that really like dark undertone, but he
Yeah.
can be very
Yeah.
subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Fragile Things, and like something I like about short story collections, even though I prefer novels, is like if I'm thinking about getting into an author and I don't have the time for it in my TBR to
Right.
read one of their first novels, what I did with Gaiman is I read Fragile Things. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy, I can rock with this guy. Little did I know, all of his books are like totally different. Everyone's like,
Yeah, that's
American
true.
Gods is totally different than Stardust, or the one I'm like, so
Oh yeah.
Stardust is my favorite book of his.
it's
by the way.
fantastic. But yeah, that's a great pick. I mean, I love that short story collection. It's what led me on his
I think
path. So.
Sandman can probably qualify as short stories too. I mean,
Yeah,
they're graphic
that's-
novels, but they
yeah.
have
Mm,
that same feel.
I mean, I
think it's
kind of a different medium, but hey, listen, you got Fragile Things. All right, don't get greedy with how much Gaiman.
Well,
has.
he actually has multiple. He has multiple
yeah,
short
he
story
does.
collections.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
another one I could.
Last one.
There's trigger
I
warnings and smoke and mirrors. Yeah.
I was just gifted the Neil Gaiman Reader
Oh, nice.
recently, which has a variety of short stories, but also some like short excerpts from a few of his more popular novel-length works.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Good intro.
Yeah, you have good friends.
Yeah.
All right, Drew, who'd you pick?
I picked Neil Gaiman's mentor, Gene Wolfe.
I thought you were going to say Neil Gaiman too. I was like, we're going to double up on Neil Gaiman here. Oh my goodness.
I picked the guy that Neil Gaiman said was the greatest living writer of the English language.
Wow.
Ooh.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he and Gaiman were very, very good friends. And yeah, Wolfe obviously he's best known for the Book of the New Sun, science fiction tetralogy, but he was a prolific short fiction writer, won tons of awards during his life, and he, like Gaiman, is very good at working in that subtle darkness to stories. Wolfe is best known for his unreliable narrators, where the story is not always what the narrator is telling you it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite writers ever, so I had to slip him in there somewhere. And
So I have a question because
Yeah.
I've only read 2 books, and that's the Wizard of the Night books.
okay, hmm
And I was just like,
Oh no.
So the Wizard and the Knight are
It might be the Knight and the Wizard. I'm not sure. Whatever it is.
It's the Wizard and the Knight. Yeah. The how do I put it? They're kind of more like entry level Wolf. Like it's not his most ambitious work.
It just left me cold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a very specific type of writer. Like I definitely not for everybody. But for somebody who really wants to, like, if you want to find a story to dig into, where you're like, I want to read something that I need to read 3 or 4 times to fully understand it, that's Gene Wolfe. He's incredibly complex. Has lots of hidden mysteries, lots of layered symbolism and allegory, and I mean. With the unreliable narrator thing, that's the biggest issue. Like, you read it and the story is one way, and then you read it again and you're like, wait a second, I'm pretty sure the character's lying here, and that fundamentally changes everything that happened afterward. And like, he's really notorious for a standalone book called Peace, which presents itself as like a Midwestern memoir kind of book.
Ooh.
But really it's a horror story.
Oh, interesting.
And it's like, you don't really see how it's a horror story until you've gone back after reading it the first time. But it's very challenging. I will say, his prose is demanding. He is not shy about long, complex sentences.
He's like in the category for me where like I have to clear out. I can't read multiple books if I read him. It's kind of like Thomas Covenant's author, Donaldson. Like
Donaldson.
Like they're writing. I gotta focus. Donaldson, because he uses a lot of purple prose. Like there's just words he just doesn't need to use that he uses. They're so big that you don't need to use. But kind of the same philosophy for me, where I got to be in that mindset to read those types of authors.
Yeah, and Ada Palmer is she's a newer author, but she kind of worships at the altar of Gene Wolfe as well. She's the Terra Ignota series, and she's the same way. Where I read To Like the Lightning, her first book, years ago, and was pretty meh on it. And then I heard her do a podcast interview where she talked about her series in relation to Gene Wolfe and the inspirations there, and I was like, oh my gosh, I completely missed the point of that book. I need to go back and reread it. But
that's funny.
But it's like I need to carve out that time to dedicate to reading it, because it's demanding stuff. It's not like Dresden Files where you could just pop in and out of those stories easily.
I would be cautious with saying that, because it changes.
I hear there's a particular book that it changes.
I mean, like a book that's titled. Okay, never mind. I haven't read any of them, so I don't know.
There's a lot of hand motions going on when they say that. You can't see that. There's a lot of wink, wink.
So maybe I should try again with Peace, is what you're saying.
Peace or Book of the New Sun. I think those are his highest regarded, but they're also his most challenging.
I mean, I like To Like the Lightning. I loved it a lot, actually.
Oh, okay. Then read Book of the New Sun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm writing it down. Actually, I don't probably know, but
yeah. Well, you could.
And Matt, I want to hear you talk about your pick here.
Oh yeah, my favorite. So we'll end it on a high note. One of the best ever. So, no, sorry. It's at Panda just found his book at a Goodwill, she said.
Yeah.
But I picked Daniel Polanski, and so. Besides just living at his altar, and I've met him in real life before in New York. Don't want to humble brag there. He was super cool. Saw him at a bookshop. So good. Anyway, so the reason I picked him is because if you go through his catalog of books that he's written, they're just first of all, it's incredibly diverse. He's written a trilogy that's noir. Am I saying that right? Noir fantasy. He's written. Noir, thank you. He's written a duology, which you never see. That's like his version of epic fantasy. It's more like dark epic fantasy, or high fantasy. But it's a duology, which you never see that. He's written a novella, The Builders, which is Redwall meets Quentin Tarantino. Ridiculous and fantastic. It's incredible. He's his best work, I think, which he came up with that idea on a bar napkin at a con one time, as a joke. A City Dreaming. If you ever heard of that, it's literally just a guy walking around fantastical New York City. I didn't love it, but it's just the fact that he got it published and can write something like that and make it readable. And then The Seventh Perfection, he just a new novella he wrote, which is fantastic. If anyone wants to read it, it's all in second person. It's about this character that remembers everything. So she's never talking, but and she's trying to solve a riddle or a mystery, and it's all from second person, from kind of like other people. You have to read it more than once. It's really short, so you can. But after the first time, I'm like, okay. I don't know what I have to read it again. It's so good. And again, just the way his mind works. He's incredibly well read. Like if you ever watch his Goodreads or look at his Goodreads, he reads every genre. He reads stuff from the 1700s, and then he'll read a crime thriller from 1985. Those then he'll read a weird horror, and then a lesbian romance, and it's like this guy within a week. So I love authors that have that kind of, it just reads that kind of catalog that they read. So I can only imagine what his short story collection would be like, having those kinds of ideas, just the diversity in that. So I would read that in a heartbeat. I don't care how much it would be. I hope he writes it someday or anything, but yeah, I wish more people read him. He's like my number one. I wish this guy was rich and had all the fame in the world, but I don't think he really cares about that. So, talking to him, he's like, yeah, whatever. It's like, okay, all right, dude. But yeah, he's the man. So that would be my my pick. So
many great recs from this episode.
I know. I was just gonna say. So we'll end the episode, and I wanted to point out no one picked George R. R. Martin. No one picked Pat Rothfuss. No Tolkien. Craig will delete this episode. He'll never allow it. We did. Who else am I thinking? Scott Lynch. Like these major players. I mean, we got Sanderson and Jordan, but I think a lot of our picks. I just like kind of our deep wells, and I think. Another cool thing about this episode, I think it kind of says certain things about each panelist. Not that really many people will care about us, but it's like that's part of the fun of these episodes. Yeah. Listen, there's like 5 people who are like, what is Yettibeats really into? I know it.
Red is somebody who likes to read stories about hell.
Yeah, that's right.
She's actually not Catholic, but she has that sensibility.
I like happy things.
Oh, I do too, actually. It's just that's so good. That one story is so good.
The more depressing, the better. Just keep it coming.
I'm Catholic.
You know what we didn't do? We didn't name our publishing house.
I had a name and I couldn't remember. Yeah.
Each of us.
Man.
I was thinking of one.
On the fly.
You can't put me on the spot like this.
Oh dear Lord! Because
I had a name for
come up with this Little Red Book, and that does not sound like I want to be associated with.
Little Red Book Publishing.
Mine immediately went to like self-deprecating names like Boar.com publishing.
Oh my
God. Yettibeats the rest of the competition. I don't know. It's terrible. Nothing that they'd be like, what is this? Clown publishing?
Mine
would work, I think.
I think mine would be Panda Paper Pushers.
There you go.
Yeah.
I guess that's better than Pencil Pushers.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm obviously terrible at naming things. So this is not an okay question.
All right.
I feel oppressed right now.
Well,
I'm not good at naming things spur of the moment.
Yeah. Well,
you could be inking out loud.
Yeah, I mean that's the
IOL
the
Publishing
thing.
right there. Go.
Yeah, IOL Publishing.
Which, by the way, if you haven't checked out their podcast, please do. Inking Out Loud. And they're also on Twitter.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Not super active on Twitter. Because
we'll make you more active.
Yeah, you guys come up with good like when they do those contests of like 3 funniest characters or whatever. You guys always have good selections.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah,
you were wrong, though, because Wayne is funny, and I don't care what you say.
No. Drew's a brave person.
I always go out of my way with those to pick non-traditional things. I know I'm going to lose in the first round every single time, but I don't care because I want people to see things that they don't normally see, and hopefully, if I can get one person out there to be like, who's this Kane guy? You know, that I have accomplished my goal.
Nice.
That's what it's all about.
I love it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for doing this. Thanks to Horizon Brave for setting up Green Team. Thanks for our overlord Craig for letting us do this. And my name is Yettibeats, and thank you to Befuddled Panda, Little Red Book, and Drew from the Inking Out Loud podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll see you
It was
guys
so
later.
much fun. Bye.